Hello friends, and welcome back to the pharmacology lecture series. So as you are all aware of, we had started with the chapter anti-adrenergic drugs or sympatholytics in the earlier lecture. So we have done with the two parts of this particular chapter under the unit drugs acting on the peripheral nervous system. So in the earlier parts we have already covered the classification of the anti-adrenergic drugs and the alpha blockers, the pharmacology of alpha blockers, and the propranolol, which we had covered in the part 2, which is a prototype of the beta blockers. So we shall continue with the beta blockers. So we will see some of the properties of other beta blockers. Okay, so we have studied the pharmacology of propranolol as a prototype drug. So let us see what are the other beta blockers and what are their characteristic features or how they differ, what are their important properties. Okay. So accordingly they are grouped based upon their different properties. They can be grouped into several categories. Okay, so the first one is the cardioselectivity. So as the name implies, these particular agents, metoprolol, atenolol, acebutolol, bisoprolol and nebivolol, these are cardioselective. In the sense, these are selective in blocking the beta 1 receptor, because these are the ones which are located in the cardiovascular system. Okay, so these are more potent in blocking the cardiac receptors, okay, rather than the bronchial receptor. B2 receptor, the beta 2 receptors are mainly located in the bronchi and the bronchials, right? So agonism or stimulation of these beta 2 receptors result in bronchodilation. Okay, so beta 2 blockage will result in bronchoconstriction. Since these agents are cardioselective, they won't block the beta 2 receptor. They are selective in blocking the beta 1 receptor. However, this particular selectivity is only relative, and as you go at higher doses, the selectivity may be lost. That is, they can block even beta 2 receptor at higher doses. Now coming to the characteristic features of these cardioselective beta blockers. So these particular type of beta blockers, they have certain advantages due to their selectivity towards blocking the beta 1 receptor. So number of adverse reactions are ruled out with this particular agent. So first one is, as I have discussed earlier also, that is, it has lower propensity to cause the bronchoconstriction, because bronchodilation is mediated through beta 2 receptor, which are not blocked. So bronchoconstriction will not be precipitated by these particular agents. But still you should be cautious while administering these drugs in asthmatics or COPD patient, because the selectivity is relative, as we have discussed, okay, and it is lost at little bit higher doses. So as far as possible, avoid these particular drugs in asthmatics or COPD patients. Okay, though they are selective, though they don't precipitate bronchoconstriction, it is better to avoid these agents in such patients. Next feature is there is less interference with the carbohydrate metabolism, because metabolic changes are also under beta 2 control. Okay, so there is less of inhibition of the glycogenolysis. Okay, beta 2 receptors mediate the metabolic changes like lipolysis, glycogenolysis, which may be blocked when beta 2 receptors are blocked. Okay, but since these are selective towards beta 1 receptors, these metabolic processes will not be inhibited. Okay, so there are less chances of inhibition of glycogenolysis. So the carbohydrate tolerance, the recovery can be delayed from the insulin and the oral hypoglycemic. So that problem is ruled out over here. So it is safer in diabetics. Okay. Then next advantage is that it has lower incidence of cold hands and feet. and less chances of precipitating Raynaud's phenomenon. Now, why it is happening is because beta 2 receptor is not blocked. Beta 2 receptors are mainly responsible for vasodilatation. So when beta 2 receptors are blocked, vasoconstriction will be produced. So blood supply to the extremities will be reduced. So there are chances that cold hands and feet, your skin or your hands and feet, they are kept warm because of the blood circulation. So by blocking the beta 2 receptors, cold hands and feet may be precipitated, right? That's what we have seen under propranolol. Okay, but there are less chances of precipitating this particular condition because beta 2 receptor is not blocked. Even peripheral vascular disease like Raynaud's phenomenon, these are also not precipitated because vasodilatation is not blocked. Again, there is no or less deleterious effect on the blood lipid profile. For the same reason, beta 2 receptors are not blocked, so lipolysis is also not affected. Okay, so lipid profile is not altered. Next, you can say that this is actually a disadvantage in the sense it is ineffective in suppressing the essential tremors. Tremors which are not associated with Parkinson's disease. Okay, so these tremors are due to the sympathetic overactivity. Okay, because these the tremors, these are under the beta 2 control. Yeah, and beta 2 receptors are not blocked by these particular agents. So these are ineffective in controlling the tremors which are mediated through beta 2 receptor. Again, one more advantage with these particular agents is these are less liable to impair the exercise capacity also. Okay, because vasodilatation is not blocked. Beta 2 mediated vasodilatation, it actually takes place whenever your muscles are exercising. Okay, so blood supply to your muscles increase, oxygen supply, nutritional supply is increased. Okay, so there is less interference with this vasodilatory action because it does not block the beta 2 receptor which is responsible for the vasodilatory property. Okay, so here exercising capacity is not impaired unlike propranolol. Okay, next types of beta blockers is the ones which are having partial agonistic property, that is the ones which have intrinsic sympathomimetic activity. We have seen that under the classification of the beta blockers, we have seen that there are non-selective and cardioselective. Under non-selective, we have seen that there are certain agents which are without intrinsic sympathomimetic activity, whereas there is a second subclass which has some intrinsic sympathomimetic activity with intrinsic sympathomimetic activity. Examples include pindolol and asobutalol. So these drugs, no doubt they are blocker for the beta receptors, but still they have partial agonistic property, that is they are not full agonist, okay, but they will stimulate the receptor partially so that the submaximal effects are produced. Okay, so they themselves can activate beta 1 and or beta 2 receptors submaximally. Mind it, it's not a full agonist. Okay, it's a partial agonist. Okay. Now, coming to the peculiarities of these particular types of beta blockers. First one is bradycardia and depression of contractility at rest. These are not prominent. Okay, usually what happens, the beta blockers, the stimulant action of the sympathetic stimulation on the heart, these are blocked, right? So bradycardia or decrease in the force of contraction will be precipitated by the beta blockers, but that is not the case with these particular agents because of their partial agonistic property. These particular disadvantages are ruled out. Bradycardia or depression of contractility will not be precipitated. Okay. Then withdrawal. This is less likely to exacerbate the hypertension or angina. Now withdrawal in the sense when you are continuing the treatment with these particular agents for a prolonged period of time. When you are using a beta blocker over a long period of time chronically, and if you suddenly stop the treatment, what will happen? The beta blockers, these are antagonists, so they bind to the receptor and block the receptor, so that agonist that is ADR, is not able to bind to the beta receptors, right? So what happens suddenly if you stop the treatment with an antagonist? The receptors are exposed to the agonistic property of ADR. So what will happen? Super sensitivity will be developed. That is, more than normal stimulation of these receptors may take place, and there may be worsening of the condition. Actually, these beta blockers are used as antihypertensives, right, to control the hypertension or to control the angina. So if you suddenly stop the treatment, the receptors are available for action, and these may produce the exacerbation, or these conditions may be worsened as a withdrawal phenomenon. Next property is plasma lipid profile. This is not affected, or it is less worsened because of their less of action on the beta 2 receptors. Okay. Then not effective in migraine prophylaxis, these particular agents, because they themselves cause the dilatation of the cerebral blood vessels. So it can worsen the condition. So these cannot be utilized in the prophylaxis of the migraine, which is a type of headache, pulsatile headache due to the dilatation of the cranial blood vessels. Again, this particular agent is also not suitable for prophylaxis of myocardial infarction. Okay. Because of its partial agonistic property, these are not suitable in controlling this particular condition appropriately. Then the next type of agents are the ones which have membrane stabilizing property. Okay, that is, potential is stabilized across a membrane. So because of this reason, drugs like propranolol, oxypranolol and acebutolol, these have anti-arrhythmic property because they stabilize the membrane. The depolarization is prevented over here. Potential is stabilized. Okay? But this particular action is significant only at higher doses. Then the next type of beta blockers are the ones which have lipid insolubility, as in case of atenolol, sotalol, celiprolol and bisoprolol. Okay? So due to their lipid insolubility, these are less likely to produce sleep disturbances of nightmares, because these are lipid insoluble. They will not be able to cross the blood-brain barrier. Okay, penetration across the blood-brain barrier will be negligible, so CNS effects will not be there. Okay, and due to the same reason, oral absorption will also be incomplete, because lipid solubility is important in case of oral absorption, because here absorption takes place by passive diffusion. Okay, but the advantage is that they do not undergo first pass metabolism. So bioavailability with these particular drugs is good. Okay, and these drugs are excreted in the unchanged form in the urine because they are lipid insoluble in nature. Generally, metabolism is significant for lipid soluble drugs to render them polar, so that they are not reabsorbed when they are filtered in the kidneys. Okay, if they are lipid soluble, they will be reabsorbed in the kidney tubules even after filtration. So for that matter, they have to be converted into polar metabolites. Okay, so these are already lipid insoluble in nature. So metabolism is negligible with these particular agents. So these are mainly excreted in the unchanged form in the urine, and also these are longer acting with a T half-life of 6 to 20 hours. Okay, and one more advantage is that these are effective in narrow dose range. Now, in contrast to these particular agents, okay, that is lipid insoluble ones, the ones which are lipid soluble in nature, these are mainly metabolized. So metabolism is significant only for lipid soluble agents. Okay, so these are metabolized mainly in the liver, and they have shorter T half-life as compared to these agents. Okay, so they have T half-life of just 2 to 6 hours. Then coming to the uses of beta blockers as a whole. Okay, so the first use is in the hypertension. Okay, so because in the actions we had seen that BP, fall in BP is produced. So these beta blockers are mild antihypertensives, okay, and one of the first choice drug in the treatment of the hypertension. Okay. Next use is angina pectoris. So generally the angina of effort, that is after exercise, generally the angina which is precipitated. Okay. So generally that type of angina is mainly benefited by this particular agents. Okay. Usually when these agents are taken regularly, they decrease the frequency of attacks and also increase the exercise tolerance. However, these effects are significant only in the therapeutic doses. Higher doses may worsen the angina in certain individuals, okay, because they may increase the ventricular size or reduce the coronary flow by themselves. So it should be administered in appropriate doses. Next uses cardiac arrhythmias. Beta blockers can suppress the extrasystoles and tachycardias. Okay, there are various types of arrhythmias which can be precipitated. Okay, so these particular agents are effective. The beta blockers are effective in adrenergically mediated arrhythmias. Okay, so these can be used to control the ventricular rate in atrial fibrillation and flutter. Okay, even esmolol, it is used for paroxysmal supraventricular tachycardia. This is also a type of arrhythmia wherein atrial heart rate, the atrial rate of depolarization is very high in this particular situation. Next use is myocardial infarction. Okay, in myocardial infarction, there are two purposes for which these beta blockers are utilized. First is the prophylaxis of myocardial infarction, that is to prevent the attack. Okay. Now how they will benefit in this situation? By preventing the reinfarction. Reinfarction will be prevented. So the further attacks of myocardial infarction can be prevented. Also it prevents the sudden ventricular fibrillation at the time of second attack. So as a result of this, the precipitation of the further attacks of myocardial infarction can be prevented. So this is how it will benefit as a prophylactic. That is second use of the beta blockers in myocardial infarction is myocardial salvage during the evolution of this attack. Okay, so salvage in the sense rescuing from an attack. Okay, so these particular drugs help by limiting the infarct size by reducing the oxygen consumption. Also it may prevent the arrhythmias including the ventricular fibrillation. So this is how it will helpful in myocardial infarction. Then the next use is in the congestive heart failure. These particular agents, beta blockers, these retard the progression of the congestive heart failure and prolongs the life. Okay. So beneficial effects in congestive heart failure is due to the antagonism of the deleterious effects which may be precipitated due to sympathetic overactivity on the myocardium. Okay, so this is how it will be helpful in congestive heart failure, but there has to be cautious administration, okay, or it should be rather avoided in patients with marked fluid retention or those who require IV vasodilators or IV inotropic drugs. So better you should utilize these particular classes of drugs. The next use is dissecting aortic aneurysm. Now this is a situation wherein there is a thickening of the wall of aneurysm, is the thickening of the wall of aorta, or dissecting aorta in the sense there may be a tear in the aorta. So at that time, if your heart pumps the blood with a full force, it will exert a pressure on this aorta and it can damage the aorta. So beta blockers help in this situation by reducing the cardiac contractility. The force of contraction is reduced, okay, and aortic pulsation, that is reduced because of the reduction in the cardiac output. Then next use is pheochromocytoma, which is a tumor of the adrenal medulla. Usually the alpha blockers are utilized over here, right? Phenoxybenzamine is usually used, or phentolamine may be used. Okay, phentolamine is usually used for the diagnostic purpose. Phenoxybenzamine actually can be utilized in this situation, but beta blockers may also be helpful in controlling the tachycardia or arrhythmias which may be precipitated in this situation. Okay, but you should be careful in administering the beta blockers only when the alpha blockers have been already given. Okay? Otherwise, it may result in rise in BP. Okay? Next use is thyrotoxicosis, okay, which is precipitated due to hyperthyroidism. Okay? Now, in this particular situation, beta blockers will help in controlling the sympathetic symptoms, that is the symptoms of thyrotoxicosis, that is palpitation, nervousness, tremors, fixed stares, myopathy, sweating. All these symptoms can be controlled. Even it can inhibit the peripheral conversion of T4 to T3. Okay? This is actually the active form of the hormone, thyroid hormone. Okay? So this conversion is inhibited. So again, this is a plus point. So you can think of beta blockers when you are thinking of a surgery. So for time being, you can give the beta blockers. Propranolol can be given. Okay. The next use is migraine. Propranolol, this can be used as chronic prophylaxis of migraine. Okay. Then next use is anxiety. Propranolol, it also has an anti-anxiety property. Now usually this particular drug, it benefits by controlling the peripheral symptoms of anxiety or the nervousness or the panic situation. Now such type of situations which may arise from, say, examinations. So if you have examinations, it creates a little bit of fear, right? Or say unaccustomed public appearance, that is when you are not used to any public appearance, and if you suddenly have to go on stage, there will be some degree of anxiety which will be precipitated, right? So these peripheral manifestations of such type of anxiety, such as palpitation and tremors, can be controlled by propranolol. Next use is essential tremors. Okay, so those which are not associated with Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease also have tremors as one of the symptoms. Okay, but these cannot be controlled by beta blockers. Okay, so beta blockers can control the essential tremors, okay, due to the blockage of the beta 2 receptors which mediate these tremors. Next use is in the treatment of glaucoma. Okay, beta blockers, these can be used in the treatment of wide angle glaucoma, or it can be also used as an adjuvant drug to other important drugs in the angle closure glaucoma also. Another use of beta blockers is hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy. Okay, so in this particular situation, the subaortic region is hypertrophic. Hypertrophy is increase in the size of a particular tissue. Okay, so in the aortic region there may be hypertrophy, okay, in the wall of the aorta. Okay, so whenever there is contraction of the heart, it will pump the blood in this aorta, right? So due to the increase in the thickness of the wall, it may hinder the outflow of the blood. So it will create a resistance to the outflow of the blood. So it may create adverse hemodynamic consequences. So how beta blockers will help? Beta blockers will help by decreasing the cardiac output. So it will minimize the pressure on this hypertrophic aorta. Okay, so these hemodynamic consequences will be ruled out. Okay, so this finishes the beta blockers, and coming to the alpha plus beta adrenergic blockers. So as the name implies, these particular drugs, labetalol and carvedilol, are the blockers at alpha as well as beta blockers. So far we have seen the selective agents, alpha blockers, okay, and the beta blockers. Now these are the two agents which have blocking property at both the types of adrenergic receptors, that is alpha as well as beta receptors. Okay, now this particular drug labetalol, this particular drug exists as 4 diastereomers, and each one of this particular agent have distinctive profile of action on various subtypes of the alpha and beta receptors. Potency wise, if you consider, it is 1/3 as that of propranolol, that is 3 times more doses required to produce action similar to propranolol. Okay, whereas the alpha blocking property, this is to do with the beta blocking property, whereas the alpha blocking property, okay, the potency, if you consider, it is 1/10 that of phentolamine. Phentolamine is an alpha blocker, right? So it requires 10 times more dose to produce action same as that of phentolamine. Okay, so it is 10 times less potent than phentolamine in blocking the alpha receptor, and is 3 times less potent in blocking the beta receptors when you compare it with propranolol. And if you compare the blockage of alpha and beta receptors, it blocks both the alpha as well as beta receptors, but comparatively it has 5 times more potent action in blocking the beta receptor. So it is more potent in blocking the beta receptors rather than the alpha receptors. No doubt it can block alpha receptors also, but it has tendency to block the beta receptors more, okay, as compared to alpha receptor. Then fall in BP will be produced, okay, that is mediated due to alpha 1 beta 1 blockage. Okay, so these are usually mediating the vasoconstrictor action, and beta 2 agonism. Beta 2 receptor stimulation results in vasodilatation. So this agent labetalol, it blocks the alpha 1 and beta 1 receptor, but it stimulates the beta 2 receptor. Okay, so it blocks the vasoconstrictor action and it produces the vasodilatory action by stimulating the beta 2 receptor. Okay, so at relative higher doses, again it can reduce the cardiac output and even the total peripheral resistance. Heart rate usually remains unchanged or it may be decreased slightly. Okay, then when you compare it with propranolol, okay, this particular drug can increase the blood flowing to the limbs. Okay, so this is a plus point. It can be beneficial in the peripheral vascular diseases also, or it may not worsen the peripheral vascular diseases. Apart from this, one more action is that it will inhibit the noradrenaline uptake also. Okay, so this can be inhibited. Okay. Again, coming to the kinetic property of this labetalol, this is effective by oral route, but it undergoes considerable first pass metabolism. So bioavailability of this particular drug by oral route is low. Okay. Coming to the uses, mainly it can be used in the hypertension which can be precipitated as a result of pheochromocytoma, okay, which is a tumor of the adrenal medulla wherein there is excessive catecholamines which are released, so hypertensive crisis may take place. Or clonidine withdrawal. Clonidine is an antihypertensive drug, so if you withdraw this drug suddenly, it may result in rebound hypertension. So this can be controlled by labetalol. Also, apart from this, it can be used in the treatment of essential hypertension also. Okay. Side effects include postural hypotension. This is quite common side effect. Apart from this, even other side effects due to the blockage of alpha and beta receptors are produced. Failure of ejaculation you can consider. Okay. Rashes and liver damage may also be precipitated. However, the plasma lipid profile, this is not altered because of this labetalol. Next drug is carvedilol. Now this particular agent has beta 1 plus beta 2 plus alpha 1 blocking property. In case of the labetalol, we had seen that it produces beta 2 agonistic property, okay, but here it is blocking the beta 2 adrenergic receptor also. Okay, so this particular drug produces vasodilatation due to blockage of the alpha 1 receptor, and one more mechanism of course is involved in this particular mechanism is the calcium channel blockage. So this is also responsible for the vasodilatation. Apart from this, carvedilol also has antioxidant property. Okay, so it is used in the treatment of hypertension because of its vasodilatory property, and also it is employed as a cardioprotective in congestive heart failure. Oral bioavailability with this agent is just 30% and T half-life is 6 to 8 hours. Okay, so this to do with the alpha plus beta blockers. Now coming to the important questions pertaining to this particular chapter, antiadrenergic drugs or the sympatholytics. Of course, the classification of the sympatholytics is very important. Okay, any of the words may be used, anti-adrenergics or sympatholytics. Okay, so classification, that is alpha blockers, then beta blockers, and alpha plus beta blockers. These are three main classes. You have to give all the subclasses along with the example. So this particular question may be clubbed with some other questions, like maybe classify anti-adrenergic drugs and add a note on pharmacological actions of alpha blockers, or pharmacological actions of propranolol, or add a note on uses of any of these, either alpha blockers or beta blockers. Okay, or a separate note on alpha blockers may be asked, or beta blockers also. The general pharmacology may be asked. Propranolol is quite important from exam point of view. Being a prototype drug, it is very, very important. It is discussed in detail in part 2. The uses are discussed in part 3. Then the pharmacological actions of alpha as well as beta blockers are important, and of course the uses, which we have discussed in detail. Okay, usually the question is asked on uses also. 4 marks questions may be asked on uses of either alpha blockers or beta blockers may be asked. Okay. This is the reference. Thank you.